Welcome, my name's David. On this first episode of Backpacker News, I'll be breaking down some of the latest stuff going on in backpacking, whether that's new technology, new gear, new materials, or interesting things you should see if you're in certain areas. So first off, we got an announcement from Elon Musk in this video here, where he talks about Starlink is now creating a Starlink Mini. This is a smaller version of their bigger Starlink, internet access for out in the bush, essentially.
We'll be introducing the Starlink Mini later this year, which can fit in a backpack. So that'll be pretty cool for anyone who wants a very portable Starlink. And then we just opened our Starlink factory in Bastrop, Texas. So that's just a little, it's one of those things like, I wasn't sure, is that actually physically possible? But it is. It's going to be very helpful for remote areas where there's no cell connectivity, or once in a while within a city, if there is a place that has no connectivity within a city, then Starlink will be able to communicate with phones. I think it's something on the order of 7 megabits per second within a cell, and the cells are sort of hundreds of square miles or kilometers in size. So it's good for text messages. You could technically do video if you're the only one, or if there's only a few people in that cell, like if you're in the middle of the Pacific or something like that. Then, but it is something that is going to be very helpful and will, I think, save lives of people. If somebody's sort of hiking in a remote region and they get lost, well, now their phone could actually work, and I think it will actually save a lot of lives, which is cool.
So he gave you most of the details there. Basically, it's supposed to arrive by late 2024. It's supposed to fit in a backpack. It's supposed to be the size of a MacBook. So it's not going to be tiny. It's not going to be smaller than an InReach, which is something to think about here. Is this going to be replacing InReach? And, well, no. I think of this thing more of like, say if you're going out to Everest or one of these things, these kind of backcountry places, and you want to set up a base camp, this is where it's going to be more usable. I did a trip this past summer here where I went up to Faro Peak in the Canadian Rockies, and say I wanted to be out there for a week summiting all these different peaks, and I brought my laptop and I brought, say, one of these Starlink Minis. You could have internet out there. If you're a geologist or biologist and you need to send data back to a company, you could be doing that out in the bush with this kind of thing. So it's not going to be replacing your InReach or your iPhone 15 with the cell connectivity like that, but it is going to be kind of supplementary, something that could save lives and could be useful to some people. A few other notes about this thing. It's supposed to, at some point, they're hoping to have Starlink to be so fast that the speed of Starlink will be faster than ground internet. So this is going to be a little ways off, and I'm sure at some point they will come out with, say, like a Starlink Micro, which would be smaller than the InReach. Or maybe at that point it all just be built into cell phones, or maybe it's in a Tesla or Starlink cell phone. Who knows? I don't see Garmin competing with SpaceX long term just because Garmin's software is so bad. It is so outrageously bad. For me personally, I don't keep my Garmin on when I hike. It's always off. I don't recommend people do this. If you've got a loved one, a wife, or a husband at home, you should have it on while you hike. It'll leave points along the map, so if you do get lost, that loved one can call in or share the link with authorities, emergency rescue crew, and can find you. If you don't have, in my case, like my cat's not going to do anything with that information. So for me, I always leave mine off, and it's just the emergency button that I have it for. So if I fall and break my leg, I can pull it out and hit the button. And something to note too, you should always carry your if you do carry a Garmin or Spot or one of those devices, have it somewhere you can reach without having to like dig deep into your backpack. It's better to have it so it's somewhere, if your legs were broken or your arm was broken, or potentially both your arms are broken, you really have to like use like a broken hand and your chin or something to grab it. That's where you want to keep it. Now, touching on cell phones just for a minute here. So the iPhone 15 is currently the only one with the cell connectivity. And I do have a friend who had to use that deep in the bush. It does work. He was deep in a big kind of canyon right at the bottom of a river. It was like a 20-foot drop down to the river, and he kind of he slipped and fell right at the bottom, and this is backcountry. So it does work. It took a day for them to come back and get him. So I'm hoping to do a full interview with him, get him on camera, and give his full account of this, but that does work. Now with the Samsung S24 Ultra, which is coming out here in just days, there's rumors that there's been people testing the phone and they removed the cell connectivity of that phone. So it looks like they're going to be waiting till S25 to release cell connectivity of the Samsung devices, which is a major letdown. We'll see though when the Samsung S25 comes out here soon, but that is what the rumors are saying. So moving on to the next segment here, we've got some weird and unique just upcoming products. Things are becoming more popular. One thing I'm seeing is these ultralight toothbrushes. I've got one of these just in my gear room back there. It's cheap, it's $2. You know, I was using a normal toothbrush before and I just cut it off and that was fine, but I ended up buying a new sleeping pad and they had these, same company, they were selling these are garage grown gear brand, so I'll link this up down below if you're interested in that. I've also seen this other brand, which is called Trail Brush. These are $11, so it's kind of pricey, but often with these long handled spoons, there's a little hole in the back here, and that's where this toothbrush just clips into there. I personally like the garage grown gear one more. Plus, if I lose it, I'm out $2, not $11. Some other products that I've noticed, Lecky's got these new hemp trekking poles. They're made out of hemp fiber, which is pretty interesting. Another thing I'm seeing on the rise is more car camping. People are heading out on the Friday evening. They're sleeping in their car, doing a trail in the morning, or they're going out for a backpacking trip from there. I'm seeing a lot of these things popping up. These are like air mats, but they fit specific cars. This one's for a Tesla. This one's more generic. You can see they kind of fit in the SUV, like they jam in there. There's one that's made by Xped. You can see here. Interesting. I've personally never seen one of these in a store. They are popping up a lot online right now. Another trend I'm seeing is a lot more people getting into using wood burning stoves instead of alcohol or the canister stoves, just maybe because the cost of fuel has gone up so much, the cost of everything. And I've recently got one of these things here. So you can see this. This is a wood burning stove. It's a really cheap small one. It just opens up like that. You put sticks in here and then wrap it with some tin foil. That is the smallest, lightest one I could find. I want to use that for shoulder seasons. You wouldn't use that in the summer because with fire bans, or in places even California, I don't think you can even use open flame stuff like that or alcohol stoves. But for me in Vancouver Island, we've got logging cuts. But I'm seeing multiple different brands. This is by far the cheapest and smallest and lightest one I've seen. I bought that directly from China off of AliExpress. I'll link that down below if you're interested. And along with those, I noticed there's been an increase in like micro saws and those kind of products popping up. I got a couple of them here. So first off, we got this guy, which is an actual saw. It's light. This, they only cost a couple bucks. Once again, I bought these from China. And then this little micro saw thing here. So you just grab the handles and just saw back and forth. I'll do a full review on those things, see if they're testing out if they're junk or not. I got a whole bunch of stuff, backpacking gear from China, so look out for that video coming up. Next on the list here, let's talk about some new materials that are being developed and used. One here is Graphite. This developed out of a company just 2 hours south of me here in Victoria. So hopefully maybe I can get in there for an interview and kind of see how that stuff is up close in the factory. Up until recently, Ultra has kind of been the fabric, the go-to. It's at least been getting a lot of attention. Ultra is a fabric that is made out of 67% of UHMWPE, or the ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, and 30% polyester. Now, graphite is 100% the UHMWPE, but it is heat bonded with a polyethylene film. Now, what makes this different is, well, they claim to have the same strength. There is no independent or any sort of release testing on this yet. It is much lighter. What's interesting about that is this material apparently doesn't delaminate. You know, when your backpack kind of gets all crumbly and kind of it's falling apart, that's delamination. And also with this material, you can heat bond different parts connecting different segments. Like you don't need to sew things on necessarily, which is way better for keeping it waterproof. And a backpack that has done exactly that is the Durston Wapta 30 that has come out. Obviously Dan Durston on the cutting edge as always. You can see here, right here, it's Alula Graphite. Alula is the company and Victoria Graphite is the material. So this black bit here, the daisy chain, is all heat bonded on there. There's no sewing on that, thus there's no holes. Now the company has stated it's just as strong. There's no independent testing or any sort of testing results on that yet, but it is lighter. So a yard of Ultra 200 fabric comes in at 3.5 ounces. A yard of Ultra 100 comes in at 3 ounces. The Durston Wapta 30 here comes in at 2.89 ounces per yard. But the company has stated the lightest form of the fabric can come in at 1.53 ounces per yard. So making it essentially half the weight. So stay tuned for some much lighter backpacks in the future. A little news here from Quandary Peak, the most popular high mountain in Colorado. This peak has seen a drop of likely 50% of the hikers going up it since 2020 because they added some horrendous fees. It's $50 to park, or it used to be $15 for a shuttle. They think they recently reduced it to $7 for a shuttle. And that has, the results have come in. People don't want to pay for hiking. I can state this myself, as I was down there in 2022 and I refused to hike this and film a video on it because I had to pay for parking. Any government administrations, parks, whatever out there want to get people hiking less in their area, add fees. It seems to do the trick. Next up, the United States government has formalized a plan for the Pacific Northwest Trail last week. This was a multi-year process to create this trail. The PNT, the Pacific Northwest Trail, will span across 1,200 miles, you can see here, spanning from Montana, Idaho to Washington all the way across. So it starts in Glacier National Park up here and just basically hugs the Canada-US border. It's basically touching at multiple spots. Heads over here, kind of just below Bellingham, and then there's obviously going to be some sort of boat transfer there, and then you head down to Port Angeles, Olympic National Park, and finally to the coast. Pretty cool. I would definitely like to hike this whole section out here. I'm not a thru hiker, but I definitely would like to hike and film some of that. That would be pretty cool. And finally, if you live down here in America, in California, near Las Vegas, to the west here, Badwater Basin saw a storm which has put water in the basin. So this was back in July. You can see it was dry, more or less, and after the storm here, it is filled up. So now you get this unique situation where you've got water in the basin, which is pretty uncommon. So if you're down there, check it out. This will be drying up over time. Just like anything in nature, these things come and go, just like glaciers or anything else. So get out there while you can, enjoy it. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this. It's trying out something new here. Be sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.